Now, Spain received a double ratings upgrade from both Moody's and Fitch. Both agencies citing the country's improving economy and labor market. Moody's raised its rating for Spain to A3, while Fitch upgraded its previously held A- rating to A. The move comes after S&P lifted its own rating earlier this month. We're expecting fresh data out of Spain later this morning. The September inflation print, as well as retail sales for the month of August, will also be released. Charlotte is joining us with more. Charlotte, we've spoken in the past, and there's a whole documentary in terms of what is making the Spanish economy so attractive at this stage. The impressive thing is that this is also happening while the political picture is a little uncertain. Walk us through what's going on.
That is the really interesting contrast that you have for Spain there. But certainly these upgrades, the first upgrade from Moody's and Fitch since 2018, the first one from S&P since 2019. Of course, we know, as we discussed in the past, the comeback of tourism after the pandemic has been a big boost for the Spanish economy. It's around 14% of GDP, so that was an important bit. They're a big beneficiary of the next-gen EU funds as well, the second biggest one after Italy. So all this boosted the Spanish economy in the past few years. But they highlight, all these agencies, those other elements for the diversification, thanks to some of these funds as well, of the Spanish economy. Then Moody's talking about a more balanced economic growth model. They mentioned the strengthening in the banking sector that increases the economy's resiliency. They talk about the competitive advantage in renewable energy. We know that is a big one for Spain as well. An important one, of course, is migration. We know that in contrast with a lot of other European countries that have opened their borders, and that has helped fill a lot of jobs in Spain, that has boosted the economy as well. And we know a lot of that migration comes from Spain, a lot of that from South America, so they speak the language. A lot of them have a Spanish passport as well. So it's a very positive, easy migration that gets into the economy very quickly. Another one that Fitch highlights is the low exposure to the US in terms of exports as well. They have only around 1.5% of their GDP, of their export is to the US, compared to 10% for Italy or Germany. So that's helping them also being shielded a little bit from the tariffs at the moment. So all these elements playing there, allowing Spain to be upgraded in their growth for this year to 2.7%. That's double the Eurozone for this year. But as you said, that's all despite the political instability. And compare and contrast with neighboring France, we know that the political instability has been a factor for downgrades recently. We know in Spain they haven't passed a budget since 2022 because it's a minority government, because they don't have a majority. And we know Pedro Sanchez is relying with myriad of smaller partners there in government. But that doesn't seem to be affecting the economy. That's stopping them from passing some new reforms that potentially would boost even more the economy. But certainly we see that de facto so far, it's still working for them despite having no functioning budget, at least for the moment. So that's reflected, of course, in the bond market. They have a lower yield than France now on the 10-year, and that has been playing out over the past few years. So again, it's very interesting to compare and contrast France and Spain.
That's where I was going to go next, actually, because you cover both economies. And not too long ago, we're talking about how, I can't remember what was the rating agency, but one of them was downgrading the outlook for France. At the same time, you have Spain in this economic highlight. To what extent are there lessons here, perhaps, for the French political scene from Spain, given how resilient the Spanish economy has been, indeed, despite the fact that you mentioned that they haven't managed to approve a budget in several years?
Yeah, but there's a question of trend as well. If you just look at the debt, for example, the debt during the highest of COVID, it was 124% of GDP. It's down to 102%. Certainly, the trend and how it's going is very much affecting the prospect for the economy. And we know that in France, it's been going up. So, for example, that's clearly the trend. So the political situation is hindering the capacity of the French government to tackle these issues and make some difficult choices potentially in public spending. And in Spain, they have been doing that work. And we know again, and you can say that for Spain or for Italy, that these economies have been hit very hard after the financial crisis, and they have had to clean up their economies in depth at a very high social cost for many years. But now, finally, they're reaping the fruit of all this. And these economies, as we've seen again through the different Mediterranean southern economies, they are doing much better than some northern economies.
The narrative has definitely changed from 10 years or so ago. Charlotte, thank you so much for the update.